Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Nerd Mode On, and I'll be doing a gameplay commentary over some Battlefield 4. But in this particular installation, I want to talk with you guys a little bit about a computer that I'm thinking of building. Now, by all means, I haven't quite made the fundamental decision that if this is something that I want to do yet, or if I just kind of wanted to get some feedback and collectively think a little bit harder about it. It's definitely going to be a pretty heavy investment, but most of the things that I do seem to be a pretty heavy investment for your guys' entertainment or for mine as well. So I guess it's not too bad in the long run. But anyway, I guess I'll kind of jump into my current build, the PC that I currently have right now, give you guys an idea of what the current function that it serves, as well as what maybe specs that I'm using internally when it comes to the computer. So right now, my computer serves a multitude of different functions. The one I currently use on a day-to-day basis serves as a rendering computer, maybe sometimes as a streaming computer, which is not always great to have both of those going at the same time, but you understand that. Now, of course, my computer is pretty heavy-hitting when it comes to the gaming thing. I can play any game on ultra settings with 0 hit to frames almost. I do have excess amounts of frames due to something we'll go over when it comes to the specs of my computer, but believe me, there's very little games that I ever see an impact on, and most of the time I'm running max frames that the game will even allow. So that's always a pleasure. Now jumping mainly into the other functions that it serves, as well as, becoming a rendering, gaming, and streaming computer, I do have the ability to use it for internet access, doing projects, homework maybe, or really just entertainment as well. My connection overall when it comes to the internet is very high, considering that I do have the highest package that our city allows, and that's always good by itself, but in most cases I can pretty much do everything all at once, and I do have a multitude of different options at my disposal to use whenever I feel like it. So I'm pretty lucky in that aspect. Now jumping right into my internal specs when it comes to my current build, I'll give you guys an idea of what I'm packing. So starting off with the motherboard, I am using an Asus P8Z77WS Intel 7 series motherboard. It's definitely a pretty expensive motherboard, but I think it serves a function that I personally need. If you're just starting out building a computer, this might not be something that you would directly go to, but for me, I just kind of went with the more expensive option I found, and it seemed to work out pretty well. Now, of course, when it comes down to the CPU, I am using the standard i7-3770K. It's clocked in at 3.5 Hertz. That's definitely pretty good, especially when you look at it in perspective to the upper tier ones or even some of the lower tiers. So it's definitely a pretty high-end CPU by itself. It's pretty expensive when I bought it as well. Now, this is where it gets a little crazy. When I get to GPUs, I was somebody that decided to go with the SLI options. I thought this would be good for having the ability to have multiple cards. Now, I am aware you have to have the same one, which I was all knowing when I built this. Now, with that in mind, I am packing 4 MSI GTX 680s. Basically, they are the Twin Frozer series, but when it comes down to it, you got to look at it that they are 4 GTX 680s. So I do have quite a bit of frames that I can occupy at any given moment. They only are 2 gigabytes, but they don't really stack by any means. But I think 2 gigabytes pretty good for what I need to do, and I don't really have any plans to be running on 3 monitors or playing a game on 3. I think that's a little overkill. Now, of course, when it gets to the RAM of my current build, I am using the Corsair Vengeance 16 gigabytes, and then, of course, I do have 2 sticks of that, so it's going to be equivalent to 32 gigabytes for my motherboard, which definitely does coincide with what they allow in the motherboard by itself. Power supply, I went a little crazy and went with 1200 watts. I thought that'd be pretty good. And of course, we're getting more into the personalizations for myself, which would be the mouse and keyboard. My mouse is the Razer Death Adder, which is definitely good. I think it's the black edition at 3500, so it's pretty precisionist. And also the keyboard is the Razer Black Widow Ultimate, which is definitely a high-end card. It is the mechanical one, so it does get that clickety-clackety noise that some people love or some people find annoying. Really depends on who you are. Now, with all that said, I do run 3 monitors. I have the capabilities to run 3. I could run, actually, I think you can run 12 if you wanted to, but I don't have any reasons to run 12. I do have 4 cards. They both hold 3 slots. You do the simple math there, you understand that 12 is the number you'd be able to occupy. I'm not quite sure if my current build could even occupy 12, but it does come down to being that I have the capabilities to do so if I so wished, but I don't even know what I'd do with 12 monitors. I already find it hard to even use the 3 by themselves. My current monitor is the Asus VS228HP, and they're 22 inches, so they're definitely pretty good, and the response time is about 5 milliseconds, which I guess is pretty decent. BenQ will probably be my next monitors I go with whenever I decide to drop some ungodly amount of money on the 4K ones, maybe when they come down in price, or maybe I'll go with something a little bit less intensive, but When it does come down to it, they're the 1920 by 1080, so they're definitely pretty much the 1080p resolution that most of you guys have become accustomed to. So of course, with all that information out there, guys, the current PC that I'm thinking of building is a little bit more intensive to doing things that are not gaming related. That's not to say I can't stick a graphics card in it, but I would find absolutely no purpose to do that, considering that most motherboards are pretty much all now come with integrated graphics anyway. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me to do that, but giving you guys an idea of what I'm currently going to be packing, I'm going to be buying another Asus monitor because I do enjoy my 3-monitor setup. I think it would be absolutely ignorant of me to get rid of something that I've become accustomed to. I think 2 monitors just isn't enough, and I think 3 is perfect for me. Of course, some of you guys maybe need 2 or 3, or maybe 1's perfectly fine with you. That's fine. But I've become accustomed to 3, and I just couldn't live without having that ability to slide stuff around and be able to have a better workflow. Now, of course, again, the monitor is going to be the exact same, which would be the Asus VS228HP 22-inch monitor at 5 millisecond response. Pretty average when it comes down to it, but I do enjoy the monitors. They have great color correction and all that good stuff, so I think it's pretty good for at least gaming and having the ability to watch YouTube videos and edit and all that good stuff along the way. As well as I will be buying the exact same case. It's a pretty expensive case, but I do enjoy full tower computers. I think that that's the way to go. If you're going to be building a PC, I think airflow is very important. Some of you veterans out there that build computers probably are aware that airflow is a very important thing. Now, I'm not saying you can't get a mid-level one, but I think the full towers are a lot more impressive, and they do serve a huge function, especially in keeping your computer cool and decreasing the problems that you can have by overheating and all that other stuff that comes along with just computer technology by itself. So I will be going with the CM Storm Striker computer, which is definitely a very good one. It's full tower. It comes with a multitude of different fans and abilities, and has tons of bays for hard drives and solid state drives, and overall just an amazing case. I highly recommend it, and I don't think you'll ever be disappointed. Now, of course, for this particular one, my power supply will be about 600 watts. I might go higher, but I don't really see a reason, especially for what this computer is going to serve, which is mainly going to be a rendering/streaming computer. It'll take all the load off of my main computer, and it'll just dump it onto another one so that it can do all its fun stuff when it needs to do it. Now, of course, I'm going to be going with the 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think that's important. It's going to be Corsair Vengeance, of course, so I don't really need a ton. It operates at 1600 MHz, so pretty standard. It's definitely going to do the job, and I think it's going to coincide with my motherboard if everything adds up, of course. Now, jumping into the specifics when it comes down to the hard drive/solid state drive. I decided that I would go with a solid state because I want my applications to load faster. Now, I'm not 100% on this. I could always add a hard drive in there. I mean, I have tons of hard drive space on my current build on my computer, so taking a hard drive out of it really isn't a problem. But I haven't quite made up my full decision on that yet. I'm not sure if I need to add a hard drive or just keep solid state. Of course, solid state's going to be where the operating system's at, so it'll boot up faster. Applications will load, and everything will just operate on a more clean basis. And I think that's always important especially when you're building a PC, of course. But I may as well add a hard drive in there. I haven't quite made the fundamental decision yet. It'll probably end up being a lower tier one like 500 or a terabyte when it comes down to the gigabyte size. Now, with all that out there, guys, the motherboard, the more important key component that can always change. I haven't made up my full decision on this one yet because motherboards are not my cup of tea. I'm not all-knowing in this category, but I am pretty familiar with what needs to occur. But I think I'm going to go with the MSI Computer Corporation motherboard ATX DDR3 1333 LGA 1150. Now, 1150 is different because if you're really a computer nerd, you understand that the 1150 operates on the 4 series CPU cards, and that's what I'm going to be going for. I'm going to be going for the i7 4770K that operates at 3.5 Hz, which is basically equivalent to the 3770K, but I have read a ton of articles that go over the difference of it. And I think the 4770K runs a little bit faster. It's probably to the nearest, 5-10%, but when you think about technology, that's a pretty big jump. And that's something that I'm willing to take. I don't think it's much more expensive. I think if I read right, it's like $30 more, which makes a lot of sense. But when it comes down to it, that's kind of the computer that I'm going for right now. Hopefully I covered everything you guys wanted to know. Of course, I'll probably just go with the standard keyboard and mouse, or maybe I'll buy even the same one that I currently have. But I'll give you guys more of an idea of when I actually build this and if this is something that's going to become a reality. I haven't quite decided, but currently my budget's sitting at a pretty expensive mark. If you guys are interested to know what my current total is, it's about $1,085.62 right now, which is pretty expensive, especially if you're not somebody that has a job or anything like that, or maybe you're just making minimum wage. But when it comes down to it, of course, I'm thinking about building it. I'm thinking about doing all that. And for some of you guys out there that are questioning what kind of an operating system I will be going with, it'll easily be Windows 8.1. I know some of you guys really hate Windows 8 and people get all up in arms and, want to stab people over it. But I think 8.1 is a lot more impressive than people give credit to, and it makes a lot of the applications run significantly faster than you might think. Especially with motherboard and the BIOS and all that stuff, there are huge improvements that I think people overlook, but that's something I'm going to currently be doing. Adding Windows 8 in there definitely is going to make that go up about another $100, but by and large, I think it's a pretty good computer, and I'd love to know if you guys would agree with everything that I talked about in the video, if you guys think that I should be adding more of something or taking away or maybe buying something different. That would definitely help me out a lot, but when it comes down to it, I guess I'll make the fundamental decision. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll see you guys in the next episode. This is NMO, and I'll be signing out, guys. Peace.